One of the problems we face living in the human realm is that we are sensitive beings. We have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin to touch, and the mind itself. And we're constantly getting caught up with the objects of these senses. So we call it the sensual sphere, the Kama Loka. So much of the time we're seeing happiness as getting the senses satisfied with different objects. Trying to get things we like to see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and to avoid and get rid of things we don't like. It requires a lot of effort to do that. Usually by the time we've learnt how to get enough or many of the things we want and get rid of some of the things we don't want, then it's time to leave this world. We die. Luang Por Chah compared it to somebody caught in a cage, like a bird or some animal in a cage. Spend all the time making the cage really beautiful, comfortable, but a cage is still a cage. Still trapped. And we're trapped by our senses, good and bad. Just getting what you want only gives you temporary happiness. Then you're back to wanting more. And quite often what you don't want slips in just when you didn't want it. We're forever trying to make the world perfect. And that's not to say it's not worth trying to improve this world, especially to help those who are less fortunate than us and just make the world work better. But because we keep getting caught up into our senses and our preferences, liking, disliking, we often make mistakes, we often make karma, some bad karma. And we have conflicts with other people, still fighting within this golden cage that we've built, but never looking to get out of the cage. So one of the first things of Dhamma practice is just learning to be more careful, mindful, restrained with our actions and our speech. Even if our mind is not peaceful yet, just to be careful not to make the world a worse place by following our craving and attachment, not to hurt other people, not to hurt ourselves. We actually have achieved a lot of happiness by being born as a human. We have many good things in our life already, even though there's still some difficulty and pain. We have many good things, but we often overlook that or forget when we get caught into our desires and attachments. If we could appreciate how fortunate we are being born as a human, having intelligence, and then meeting with the Buddha's teachings and having opportunity to practice Buddha's teachings, we already can be very happy. But what happens? We have all this good fortune, our good karma, our merit, our parami, it's already there. Then we keep ruining it. We spend too much time thinking about other people. Is a big problem for us. That's part of the sensual realm. You see other people, you hear other people, and then you start thinking about them. Sometimes we criticize them or scold them. Sometimes we're jealous of them, get angry with them, sometimes afraid of them. Often we just spend too much time thinking about them, and then we don't watch ourselves or learn much about ourselves. It's all about other people, the ones we like, the ones we don't like. It fills our mind all day long, thinking and then talking and then sometimes even doing things. So we're still caught into this cage of attachment, but just running around arguing with other people. Even when we're not arguing, we're still thinking about them, grumbling, complaining, competing, comparing. This is why practicing meditation is a shortcut to happiness. Because as you become more mindful and you look back at yourself, using the mirror of mindfulness, reflecting on your mind, on your actions, you can see what's going on and realize half the problem is yourself. Just thinking too much about other people, getting involved with things that only make us unhappy. When something goes wrong in life, usually our first reaction is to blame someone else. Sometimes we blame ourselves. If we can't blame ourselves now, we blame ourselves in the past. Like when people get ill, and they often say, I must have done something really wrong, really bad last life. Now I've got this illness or injury. There may be some truth to that, but sitting there blaming this imaginary self in the last life only makes you miserable, doesn't help. Or at work, we blame other people when things go wrong. In the family, we blame other people. Or blame ourselves. It's the blaming mind that's the problem more than the people. There's one Buddhist nun I knew. She had great faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. Had a very good life, wealthy family. She became a nun in her later years. But unfortunately her son, who she'd given everything to, good education, good opportunities, lots of money, he got into drugs, ended up in prison. And she is so unhappy being a mother. She was a nun, but still a mother. And she'd sit there in her meditation blaming everybody until finally she couldn't blame anyone else. And then she looked at herself and she said, I've done everything right. I've loved my son, brought him up well, given him everything. And then this has happened. Now he's in prison. And I didn't do anything wrong. Why did this happen? So she couldn't find any fault with herself. So she said, I've been thinking about this. It must have been his mother in a past life brought him up wrong. So she started blaming her son's previous mother. So if we can't blame ourselves, can't blame someone else in this life, we'll start looking for someone to blame in last life. No end to it. But life is full of things going wrong, not getting what we want. The Buddha's way is to accept that and move on and make more good karma through the practice rather than getting stuck in blaming, complaining, getting upset with oneself, upset with other people. It doesn't help. It only makes you worse and makes you not want to practice. You have to be more like the duck. We once had a duck here. You've seen all the ducks on the ponds. There's one duck that was attacked by a fox. We have foxes here. And at night they sneak around trying to grab the duck. Occasionally they get one. You hear the duck screaming and then it dies. This duck, the fox grabbed its wing, ripped its wing, but it managed to escape and get away. But after that it couldn't fly. And ducks like to move around as a group. You probably notice they move around, eating. They squabble just like humans, but they move around as a group. But the little duck couldn't fly anymore, so when the group flew off somewhere, he'd have to run after them. They usually don't fly that far, they just fly from one pond to another or one spot to another. So you could see in the distance where they went, and he'd run after them, catch up. And then he felt good, joined in again. He didn't bother complaining, he just did what he could to keep up because he was injured. He couldn't change that. I don't know how long he lasted, but I saw him for quite a while, always running after the group, trying to keep up. And life is like that. Sometimes we have suffering, problems. If we just sit there complaining, grumpy, go into the negativity, it tends to make things worse. Even though many things can be like a shock, or quite difficult, once we've picked ourselves up, then we have to start moving again, start practicing. And sometimes those difficulties bring up very good qualities. They make us try harder, make us more patient, put forth more effort, be more mindful. Because of the problem, then we start looking for a solution and looking for a way out of the problem. Or in the big picture, it's like when you realize you're in a cage, then you start looking for the way out. And the way out is the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path. Sila, Samadhi, Panya. The Buddha always said patience is the supreme destroyer of defilement. So we keep coming back to patience. Luang Por Chah would always encourage us to be patient, endure our own craving, negativity, physical pain and difficulty we face, mental distraction, all the different obstacles, to be patient with them. Because patience means not making them worse, not giving in to anger, despair, disappointment, but to keep practicing. When I first went to Thailand, I stayed at Wat Pananachat and Wat Nombapong, and I was strong, young. And then on the One Prat, the holy day, all the villagers would come into the monastery and we'd stay up meditating all night. Some of those villagers were 50, 60, even 70 years old. And they had great faith. And they'd come into the monastery, and in the evening we'd listen to a talk, do the chanting, and then meditate through the night. Sitting and walking meditation. And I'd sit there at the back. And I could sit for an hour, and then my legs were so painful I'd have to get up. In those days there's not much in the way of cushions or comfy mats to sit on. Just sitting on a straw mat on a concrete floor. So after an hour, I'd have to get up and walk. But I watched the villagers, men and women, and they could sit for hours and hours, listening to talk or just meditating. If they got tired or needed a change, they'd go out and walk a bit, and then they'd come back and sit some more. And they could stay all night. And when they sat beautifully, very straight, very still. Because they've been doing it for many years with faith. There's me, the young man, couldn't do it. All I could do was walk. I just walked back and forth, back and forth. Not much different from the duck. In this case, everyone can sit. I couldn't sit, so I had to walk. But you learn from these obstacles, and if you have people around you who are Kalyana Mitta, good examples, that helps. You see them trying, then you try. That's one way we help each other. If we can be a good example by putting effort into our practice, then the people around us, they get something too. If you spend all your time sleeping, then others will sleep. If you spend all your time talking, others will talk. If you don't meditate, then others won't meditate. But if we put effort into our practice, try to be mindful, careful, do the sitting, do the walking, not only do we gain something, but the people around us, they also gain something too. You'll find if you're patient, keep at it, good things come. What kept me going in the early days at Wat Nanachat, Wat Papong, sometimes I'd ask the monks or ask the lay people how their evening meditation went or their all-night meditation went. And they'd say, well, many hours of hardship, pain in the leg, sleepiness, restless mind. But sometimes you get a period when the mind becomes really clear, peaceful, and the mindfulness is strong, and you feel really good. And then you can see all the other stuff is a delusion or illusion. It's not real. It's just thoughts, feelings. And then you get inspired to keep practicing. Sometimes it's just a short period where your mind gathers together in samadhi, but sometimes it's even longer. And you realize that the real problem is not the world and your job and your family and your body, achy legs. It's just your mind, what it thinks about it all. That's the problem. And when your mind goes still, goes quiet, you know that, you see it. And you get real faith because you can see that the practice does bring good results. You let go. But to get to that point, you have to be patient and put forth effort and keep trying. So the Buddha and Luang Por Chah, all the teachers, they've been encouraging us to keep practicing because there's really no other way out. Ajahn Chah would often say, if it's not good, let it die. Just end it there, let it go. If it doesn't die, make it good. Make your thoughts good. Bring up the good things, the good thoughts, the good qualities in your mind. The bad ones, let them go, let them die. And you have to keep remembering when you die, finally, when your body dies, you can't take any of the things of this world with you. The people you love, the property, all the things of this world you have to leave behind. But you take your mind with you. The mind doesn't die. So you want your mind to have some good things. Noble treasure, noble wealth, sattva, sila, panya, wisdom. If you learn how to let go of your suffering in this life, it's going to be easier next life. If you put it aside this life, you stop practicing, you give up, it's not going to get any easier next life, it'll be harder. If you're ever facing a particular defilement that you can't put down, you can use this reflection. You might as well work and let it go now. You're only going to have to do it later anyway. So you might as well do it now. If you're angry, just forgive them now. Don't wait. Because if you wait, that anger will cause you suffering over and over again. If you're obsessed with something, some greed, something you desire, you haven't got, let it go now. No point holding on, you just keep suffering. All those worries that bother you, put them down now, let them go. It's just endless suffering. Bring your mind to the present moment with mindfulness and see all of these things are impermanent. They're suffering, they're not self. Let them go. Bring the mind back to stillness, peace. So we have some time left now. We can carry on meditating till we hear the sound of the bell.